Hey there. Ready to dive deep into European AI? We've got a ton of reports and articles trying to figure out how Europe's shaping its own AI approach, especially compared to, well, the US and China.
Yeah, it's fascinating. You've got the US just sucking up AI investments, China's on this massive growth spurt, and then there's Europe trying to forge its own path.
Right. It's like they're saying, we're doing AI our way.
Yeah.
So what makes their approach so different? What I'm seeing is this big emphasis on trustworthy AI.
Absolutely. It's ingrained in their whole philosophy from the very beginning. It's not just about developing the tech, it's about ensuring it's used responsibly every single step of the way. And it's not just talk either. There are some really cool examples of European companies actually living this out.
Okay, see, I love concrete examples. Hit me with it. What are some European companies doing differently?
Well, take AstraZeneca, for example. They are using AI to actually personalize cancer treatments. They analyze tons of genetic data, clinical trial results, really cutting edge stuff.
Wow, so it's about potentially creating hyper-personalized treatment plans. That could be huge for patients.
Exactly. And it's not just cancer treatment either. Look at Novartis. They're using AI to make drug development way faster, more efficient. It could mean getting life-saving meds to people quicker than ever.
That's massive.
Right.
It's like they're using AI to streamline the whole process, maybe even making it more effective in the long run. Are there other companies taking a similar approach?
Oh, absolutely. DeepMind over in the UK, they're doing some really interesting things with AI in healthcare. They're developing systems that can actually predict if a patient's health is about to take a turn. Early warning systems like that are key for effective treatment.
It's like having a crystal ball for healthcare. Seriously, how amazing is that? This is giving me some serious hope for the future of medicine.
And you can't talk about the future of healthcare without mentioning Babylon Health. They're using AI to offer virtual health services, virtual checkups, symptom checking, all at your fingertips.
It's like having a doctor right there in your pocket. Incredible, especially with how hard it can be to even get an appointment these days. These are some compelling examples. But I got to ask, how does this focus on trustworthy AI fare in the global AI race? You've got the U.S. pulling in huge investments, China coming in strong. Where does that leave Europe?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And frankly, it's not always a walk in the park for European AI companies. Take the US, for instance. They've got that Silicon Valley energy, tons of investment, cranking out innovations at lightning speed. Plus, their regulations are a tad more relaxed, which, can be a good or bad thing.
Yeah, I was reading that back in 2018, the average Series C funding round for a U.S. AI company was almost $61 million. That's a serious chunk of change. How does Europe even compare to that?
You're right, it's a staggering number. It's a significant difference. European companies often struggle to secure that kind of funding. And then you have China, they're like the rising tide in the AI world, pouring resources into development, and their workforce is all in, they see AI as strategically crucial.
It's like they're going all in, betting big on AI. Okay, so the U.S. is ahead on investment. China's hot on their heels. What are some of the hurdles European companies face in this landscape?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is this thing called brain drain. Imagine being this brilliant AI researcher in Europe, those Silicon Valley salaries. Tempting. It's a real struggle for Europe to hold on to their top talent.
It's like a tug-of-war for talent, and it sounds like Europe needs to bulk up a bit to compete.
Then there's the issue of regulations. Now, don't get me wrong, Europe has the right intentions. They're laser focused on making sure AI is used ethically and responsibly. But those regulations, they can be complex, and that can sometimes slow things down.
It's about finding that balance, protecting people, but also letting innovation thrive.
Yeah,
Tricky.
absolutely. And there have been some real life examples of this playing out. Remember when Meta had to hit pause on rolling out a new AI model in the EU? That was because of regulatory concerns. It really highlights how those regulations, while well intentioned, can sometimes throw a wrench in the works.
So we've got this talent drain, regulatory hurdles, and then the elephant in the room, the funding gap. Sounds like European companies are facing some serious challenges.
They are, but it's not all doom and gloom. There are definitely signs of resilience, signs of growth in the European AI scene. In fact, 2023 showed some encouraging trends in European AI funding. It's still not quite at the US level, but it shows potential.
Oh, really? So there are flickers of hope then. Tell me more.
Well, the EU has this goal, right? They want to boost their annual AI investment, get this, to 20 billion.
Whoa, that's a ton of cash. What are they planning to do with all that?
Big chunk of it, research and development. And not just one area. We're talking healthcare, transportation, manufacturing, even cybersecurity. It's like they're not just trying to build the next cool gadget. It's about tackling the big stuff.
Playing the long game, building a strong foundation. But it's not just about throwing money at the problem, is it?
You got it. It's about creating these ecosystems, these hubs where startups, researchers, investors, they all come together. It's all about that collaboration, speeding up innovation.
So they're really cultivating a European AI scene. But we talked about that brain drain. What about the skilled workforce?
Yeah.
You need the talent to make this happen.
100%. You can't have one without the other. So they're investing big time in education, in skills development, specialized AI programs, incentives for students to really dive into AI, even helping people from other fields retrain, meet that demand for AI pros. It's about building a future-proof workforce.
Laying the groundwork for Europe to become a major player. But let's loop back to that whole trustworthy AI thing.
Yeah.
Can that really compete, especially with the US and China going full speed ahead? Can ethics really be a competitive edge?
It's a huge question, right? I mean, there's no denying the US and China have a head start. The funding, the speed. But here's the thing.
Okay, now you've got me on the edge of my seat.
Think of it this way. You're a business. You need an AI solution. Two options. One's super advanced, but from a company with, let's say, questionable data practices. The other, maybe not as flashy, but built on transparency, responsibility. Which one are you trusting with your business?
I see where you're going. As AI becomes more part of everyday life, that trust factor is huge. People want to know their data's safe, that the systems they're using are fair, right?
Exactly. And that's where Europe's focus could really give them an advantage, especially as people become more aware of things like algorithmic bias, data privacy, all of that.
It's like they say, with great power, you know the rest.
Yeah.
It seems Europe's taking that seriously with AI. But let's get specific. What are they doing to make ethical AI a reality?
Well, one of the big ones is the EU's AI Act. This thing is basically setting the standard for AI regulation globally.
So like a rule book for responsible AI.
Exactly. It categorizes AI systems based on their risk, from minimal to, get this, unacceptable. Like, imagine AI being used for social scoring. That's ranking citizens based on their behavior. That would fall under unacceptable risk, completely banned in the EU.
Okay, yeah, some things are definitely a step too far. But what about AI that's high risk, but not like ban-worthy? How does the AI Act handle that?
That's where it gets really interesting. High-risk systems have specific requirements. For example, human oversight, rigorous checks on data quality, detailed documentation, the whole nine yards. It's about making sure those systems are used responsibly.
It's not just about saying don't be evil. It's about the how, the nuts and bolts of making it happen.
Right. And it goes beyond just rules. The AI Act also encourages innovation with things like regulatory sandboxes. It's a safe space for companies to test their AI before it's out in the wild.
Interesting, so they can experiment, but within ethical boundaries.
Exactly. It's a key takeaway about Europe's approach. They're not against innovation. They want to see it thrive, but in a way that benefits everyone.
So they're setting a global precedent, putting ethics into law. That's pretty bold.
It is. Only time will tell how effective it'll be.
Hmm.
But one thing's for sure, the world's watching.
This is fascinating stuff. Feels like we're at a crossroads with AI, different approaches emerging. It really does seem like Europe is trying to find that balance, pushing for innovation but doing it right.
Yeah.
But let's get practical. Besides the AI Act, what are some European companies that are really walking the walk on this ethical AI thing?
Oh, there are some really cool ones out there. Have you heard of OMI Industries? They're based in Germany. They do these AI-powered odor control systems.
Odor control. Now, that's not something you hear every day. What makes them stand out ethically?
They're just like really upfront about their data practices, how they collect it, how they use it, which is huge these days. And get this, they even let users request their data to be deleted anytime.
So they're putting users in the driver's seat with their own data. That's pretty big. It's good to see a company taking those extra steps.
It really is.
Yeah.
And then there's Utopia Analytics. They're Finnish. They use AI to moderate online content. What's cool about them is they're tackling bias head on. Like, they've trained their algorithms on these massive data sets specifically designed to be super inclusive. Lots of different voices.
That's wild.
Yeah.
They're using AI to actually fight bias, which is honestly not the first thing that comes to mind. It kind of flips the script on how we usually think about AI and bias.
I know, right? Refreshing. And those are just two. There are Tons of European companies out there proving you can be innovative and responsible. Whether it's healthcare, finance, whatever, they're showing that ethical AI isn't just a buzzword, it's the real deal.
It's like they're raising the bar, showing
Yeah.
that you don't have to sacrifice your values for tech progress.
Eh.
But I'm sure it's not always easy building ethical AI. What are some of the challenges these companies face?
Well, for one thing, AI is just complex. It's really hard to predict every single ethical implication, before it's out there in the real world interacting with people.
It's like trying to think of every possible outcome from one action, right? Gets messy fast.
Exactly. And these systems are learning all the time, changing. It's an ongoing thing, making sure they still line up with our values.
It's like, I don't know, it's like raising a kid. You got to keep guiding them as they grow up.
Perfect analogy. And then, of course, there's balancing innovation with all the regulations. We talked about Europe's data privacy rules, and yeah, they're well-intentioned, but they can slow things down sometimes.
That constant tension between moving fast and being careful. Tough one.
For sure. Honestly, I think it's something the whole world is wrestling with right now. How do we find that sweet spot where innovation and responsibility actually work together?
Well said. So, as we wrap up our deep dive into European AI, what's the key takeaway for our listeners? What should they be keeping an eye on as this all plays out?
I think the big thing is just remembering that AI is always changing. What's groundbreaking today might be old news tomorrow. But the thing that stays the same, ethics. That's not going anywhere.
Like a compass,
Yeah,
right? Guiding us through all the changes.
exactly. AI is only getting bigger, more intertwined with our lives. It's more important than ever that we're pushing for systems that are trustworthy, transparent, accountable, all of it.
Now, that seems to be something European companies really get. It'll be really interesting to see how their approach shapes the future of AI, not just in Europe, but globally.
Absolutely. It's an exciting time to be following all this, that's for sure.
It really is. And on that note, we'll leave our listeners with a thought. If you were designing the future of AI, what would it look like? What values would be at its core? How would you ensure it benefits everyone? Keep those questions in mind as you navigate the ever-evolving world of AI. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.